So who am I? As you heard, I'm a serial entrepreneur, author, investor, and I've had a lot of luck in my life being part of a lot of unicorns. Basically, my life has always been chasing the unicorns, or maybe you could put it better. I've always said, how do you change the game? How do you rethink the existing? For me, it's been, how do you change the game and how do you innovate in exponential business models? How can you take a perfectly working business model at a large customer and destroy it? That's been my passion. That's why I get out of bed. Because I believe that with technology, we've been able to curb the curve for exponential growth. And that has been the disruption that I've been so passionate about. But I think I came to an insight, and that is just driving exponential growth today is not enough. For me, from today on, it's about driving circular growth. That is my purpose going forward. And I applaud every entrepreneur to be out there to really think exponential growth is not enough. What can I do to actually bring my business totally circular? Because I was totally knocked off my feet when I saw this date. It put my life in a different trajectory. I don't know how many of you know what that date is, but for me, this was a life-changing event. The 29th of July is when we as humans have used up all the renewable energies in the world. And it's already the 29th of July. It's the overshoot day. So basically, we are living on borrowed time. And if you're an entrepreneur, what do you do about it? You need to rethink. So I went back to this classical perspective that we learned in school, in business school. Basically, what do you need to do? You need to do good for people and good for business. And doing good for people is making better products. And doing that by making them cheaper. The basics of economy. Better product to a cheaper price will drive share price and profit for me. The classical linear model. But what we forgot is that we did not account for the world. Basically, we did something that was bad for the planet because no one taught us that mining things out of the planet and producing things was negative. It was never asked about. It was all about profit. But I think we need to change that perspective. We need to look ourselves in the eye and say, how can we as a business drive the positive things without only doing bad for planet? And rethink the existing. And I would actually go a step further. I would say we should urge every investor to start thinking, what is value creation? It's not about profit anymore, maybe. It's about value creation. And what do I mean with this? This is a very complicated, more of a consultant kind of slide, but I think we've always measured net earnings, net incomes. This is what you measure. This is the quarterly reports that we have presented by legislation that you need to do, which is actually positive for the world. Then, of course, we can add salaries and payment and saying that is positive. We pay people, they can spend the money. And then we can add taxes because that's good for society. And we can actually argue we maybe should also add products. You know, we invented the train, it's good for transportation. We invented the car. We invented the phone, which was easier to communicate. We invented the computer that, you know, changed my life in a perspective. We could say a lot of the things we have invented and produced are actually good. But this is where we stop measuring. And I would say that's not enough. I would say true value creation is also starting to actually go through all the negative impact you have as a company and be very honest and transparent about it. Because what is your carbon emissions? What is your waste? Are you doing pollution? And you can also say product impact for people and social impact and work impact for people as is important, you know. I think we came very close where the flight industry said, you know, these guys here were cutting corners and not making us safe airplanes. And the government said, no, that's not okay. So we stopped. And we said, no more unsafe flights. Same thing with people. We said, it's not okay with child labor. It needs to come to a stop. But you can even argue, we see a lot of people bicycling around with food, and maybe that is good for society because maybe they get fitter, or maybe it's really, really bad because we need to have a lot of people in hospitals. So I think you as a company need to really rethink the whole model here and define what is value creation. My biggest fear right now is that we talk about sustainability. And when we talk about sustainability, it's often the companies that have the worst agenda, that are doing the most bad for the planet. They are the ones jumping on the sustainability train, which of course is good. But what they're doing is addressing a broken model already. And they're putting in money here to actually make their product a bit better. The challenge though is, if you're a fashion company and you go in saying we're going to be a solely sustainable company, what happens is you increase the price of the product. Because I'm still amazed that their net incomes are not dropping, because it's so important to protect that. So we let the consumer decide that they should take the extra cost for a product that is maybe not as good. So I think this is, for me, the challenge. And then you can even go beyond and say, if your net income is 35, but just your environmental impact is above, should we even allow these companies to exist? And you can go even further and saying, if you're a soda company delivering soda cans in the world, maybe you have a huge impact on pollution transportation. But if your social impact for every dollar you earn, that your social impact in diabetes and dental care is $7, again, should we allow these companies to exist? So if you're an investor, if you're ever putting money into any company, I would actually urge you to actually go to what is the company's net value creation, and be very clear about that. Because that is, for me, the most important thing. And the only way to change this is actually to fundamentally rethink how we think about sustainability and circularity. Because for me, sustainability has maybe been hijacked of the companies that are doing it the worst. Because core conscience, minor value creation, because they're using an existing business model that they profoundly want to make a little bit better. I would actually argue that this is not enough. We would actually need to go to a fully circular model where we would urge every company to innovate in a new model where we actually would not even sell things. We maybe would be responsible for the product we deliver, and we would rent them out, because that is maybe one of the most important perspectives to do. And of course, this will frighten a lot of existing leaders, because you would need to fundamentally change your game. It's not about doing some corporate conscience, it's about fundamentally changing the way you operate. So I think it's all about circularity is the new norm. How can we take out and create a model where you have no impact for the environment? And I think this is the starting point. If you don't own, you can replace items where we can circulate to others, which makes it affordable for more. And actually create something that is good for the planet. I had the great fortune of actually becoming one of these, future entrepreneurs. I was working with one of the biggest furnishing companies in the world, and I said, maybe we should rethink what we're doing. Maybe we should take that perspective of being very progressive. And the board listened, and they invested the biggest seed amount round in Europe into this small venture, trying to understand, can we crack the code of circularity? So the first thing I'll do, and I'll share a bit of perspective how we think in cracking the code of circularity. And that is good for people. I think we took a customer-centric approach in this. How do we create a product that is better? Because in many cases, we urge the consumer to buy things that are more expensive for a higher price. So we said, in this field, let's try to democratize workspace. Let's secure that every human being has the same kind of furniture as their CEO. Let's rethink that perspective. And let's make it so desirable that you cannot say no. And build it in a way where people would actually love it. I think that was our first starting perspective. The second part is actually good for people. Unfortunately today, I think we're in an area where a lot of companies are urging the consumer to make the right choice. I think if we really want to make this a mass product and make it for the many people, we need to rethink and actually serve a product that is only not just better, but also cheaper. And I profoundly believe by circulating things, we can actually make it cheaper, because we can reduce production costs and we can reduce waste. And it's also about transparency, maybe having one price, making it hyper convenient. Should be easy maybe to cancel. Today we try with these new models to lock people in 5 years because it's good for us as a company, but if we're proud enough about our product, maybe we could just let them leave whenever it's needed. So, last part, good for planet. I think the really good part for planet is going circular. Sustainability is not enough. And where do you then start? I think the best thing is start with something that has been used. We call it better than new. What happens if we could source existing products so we would not need to produce more? I think that is a game changer for the industry. Second part here is also, I think we need to design to ensure long life. If we go back to the truck industry, they deliberately design the trucks so you need to change a lot of parts because they're making most of their money on part changes. And I would say that we need to rethink. How can we produce a product that can stand the time for 15, 20 years and be reused over and over again? It's also about choice. If you really want to go to a circular model, you need to limit the number of choice. We as consumers have learned that the more choice, the better we have. It's all about being able to choose any color of the chair. But if we want to make it circular so we can circulate to others, maybe we need to limit it to 25 SKUs. And when we've done that, we come to the perspective, wow, if you don't own, you can circulate things to others, which is great. There's only one challenge with this as coming in as an entrepreneur. Everything in the logistic business is paid to actually deliver. You buy a product and then you waste the product. So what we need to do as a society today is innovate in reverse logistics. Because if we want to go to a circular economy, the logistics system needs to fundamentally change. We cannot wrap products in cardboard paper. We need to find ways to deliver things without waste and redefine things. Last part, tech enables circularity. I think what people forget is the amount of technology you as a company need to invest to actually drive this different business model. Because it's everything from onboarding, how you deliver things. Because we would still want to be an exponential company, but still circular. So it's all about the technology. And one of the most important things here is assets. How do you define your own assets? Because if you as a company own them, you need to understand exactly where they are, where they're being used, how you can track them down and reinvent them and define which should be taken out of service, who should be not. And I think there's a big underestimation that tech is needed enormously to do this. And then the last part, good for business. I put a question mark on this. This is the hard part. This is why a lot of companies are not doing it. This is why the most innovative companies are willing to sacrifice a lot of money to try, but nobody knows if this business model is going to be profitable until 15 years. So it's a huge leap of faith. So I can understand that there are a lot of leaders and CEOs today saying maybe we should try it in the corner and then we go for sustainability. But I said you're on the wrong track. You need to fundamentally change your existing business model because we need to save the planet. And we need to talk about true value creation. Sustainability is not enough. So with a circular approach, with an entrepreneur for the future kind of approach, I want to actually do something good and create a purpose. I started out in the furniture industry, and I hope this lesson and my learnings can be shared with a lot of other people. So thank you very much. I'm on a mission to create a business without impact. Thank you very much.